Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and give a tutorial on how to attach the inner skins on the Senna Wooden Frame system for the R2D2 droid. I built the wooden frames based off the Senna plans, and they came out spot on, so both diameter, top, bottom, the whole 9 yards, it's perfectly built, goes together well, it's all glued up, it's all set. I was unable to find videos on the internet that talked about attaching the inner aluminum skins to the wooden frame that basically gave a step-by-step with the skirt and the rotating the dome base. So that's what this video is about, how I did it. I decided that instead of using the side snaps and having the skins able to become removable, I wanted my skins permanently attached because what I was going to do is when I built the Senna frame, I decided to build the back door as well, so it is removable. So I'll be able to enter either from the top or I'll be able to go inside the back, and that allows me to keep my skins permanently attached. So I did a little research on attaching the skins as far as reading up on the Astromech forum, and there was a lot of recommendations out there and on how to do the initial alignment. Some of the other questions that were out there were whether or not you make the bottom of the aluminum skins flush with the bottom and have extra on the top, or do you, one said you make it flush with the top and have the overhang on the bottom, another one said both are flush, but the instructions weren't perfectly clear. So what I did is after I built my frame, my wooden frame, and I glued it together, I attached the polystyrene plastic skirt with screws, so it's on there temporarily, so later on I can cut a hole, I can remove it, and add the bolts. To me, this is important to have this already built and attached so you know your thickness. Because based on which skirt you use, the thickness could be 1/4 inch, it could be 1/8 of an inch, it could be 3/16 of an inch. So having a skirt on to me is important when you're going to permanently attach your skins. So once I had the skirt attached, and everyone says, okay, the skin should be flat, flush with the bottom. So I said, okay, that's going to be my focus point, is making the skins flush with the bottom of the skirt. And basically, I decided to use the dome bullets for holding the dome on, so I can remove it and have access to this. So I attached my dome bullets. I already had my Lazy Susan ring on. So what this does for you is this allows you to adjust your dome when you have the dome bullets. And let me get this on. So, where did I start? Again, there was 3 thoughts. There was a couple of different approaches that people were suggesting as far as starting with your inner skins to attach them permanently. Again, I decided to use number 4 1-inch long sheet screws countersunk within the frame. One video that I found that was really good that I liked was to use the coin slot piece, the 3D slot piece or resin, whichever, use that as a guide. When I 3D printed this, I found out based on my horizontal supports that I would have to trim off the top and bottom, the portion that has the hole where the screw goes in. No problem, I cut it off. There's still plenty of room to eventually permanently glue this in. The problem that I found out with this is realistically, if I just use just the coin slot itself, pop it in the hole and use it as a guide, the instruction was to pop this in and push this all the way against the wooden vertical support. Well, when I did that, these 2 cavities weren't center. Okay, remember, if you're going to have servos in here, opening and closing doors, this should be centered, this should be centered, so you can put your little grommet in here, whatever you want to call it. That piece has to fit in here, so this should be centered as well. So basically I focused, I said, okay, I'm going to put this in, and this should keep it vertically upright, up and down. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to center these, and then I'm going to also focus on my side hubs, because if you have your hubs on, or you don't have them on, no matter what, when you put your shoulder hubs on with your legs, the shoulder hubs have to be centered. It doesn't matter about scraping, but it's going to look weird if it's rotting against one side and you have a 1/4 inch gap on the other side. Will anyone notice it? Maybe not. But it's important to try and get this centered as much as possible. So I tried the 3-prong attack. I said I'm going to have the coin slot in. I'm going to try and center this along with my 2 retractable arm ports. And then I'm also going to focus on my side shoulder, but make sure that my bottom is flush all the way around with the skirt. By doing those 3 things, you should get a good attachment of the inside skin, or the inner skin. So basically, once I had this coin slot in, I would push the skin nice and tight up against it. Attached it, and I made sure nothing moved using clamps. And then I probably had, 8 or 9 clamps going up this thing. Okay? Up here, 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 all the way down to here. Because I wanted to make sure this was, attached and that this was flush. It's important to get the base to start correctly. Then what I did is I pre-drilled with a 5/32 drill bit. Then what I did is I used a countersink bit to countersink and get the aluminum countersunk so the screw will go flush. Now, here's one thing you need to be concerned with. Even if you pre-drill using good quality screws, okay, 1 inch, number 4, 1-inch screws. A lot of videos called for 1 1/4 or 1 1/2. I use 1-inch screws, and they work perfectly fine. If I used a driver or a drill to try and set these screws in there, even with pre-drilling, I still had screws that would break off. And you don't want that to happen, or else you're just going to have, a hole with a broken screw in it. So what I ended up having to do is I ended up manually screwing in all these screws. So I started here at the center, I put these 3 screws in, and that started my base. Then what I would do is I would force this over until it comes all the way over. I would cinch it down, make sure that there's no gap, drill another hole, put a screw in here, this one's already here, drill a hole, put a screw, and then I work this way all the way to this, until this skin was attached. Then I would come back over here, and I started working this way until all this. There's about 40 screws just on the front face of this door skin. And believe me, it's not moving. This thing is permanently attached. So for the outer skin, I'm going to use the 3M double-sided tape, and because again, it's going to be permanently attached, I'm going to focus on my center pieces and my doors, and then I'm going to roll it, make sure that there's no buckling, and that way everything will be flushed up once I have the shoulder hubs on there and everything will be perfectly aligned. So, now remember, start with your front inner skin. Why? Because a lot of R2D2 people have their front panels that are opening and closing. So these are the ones that will be operating, whether it's this one, these two, the side panels. the data ports, whatever the case may be. Most people don't have any of the panels on the back side open and closed, so they're pretty much just two door skins, or two skins. So it's important to have the front aligned, because then when you go and do the back, it's still important to maintain flush down below, and it's important to make sure that you're not rubbing up on the top, but it's a little bit easier to align once you have the front. Now, you can start at one side. Once you have the front attached, start in one corner, and again, you work around maintaining flush, and by doing so, you're going to align this side. You'll move back around over to this side, and then again, worrying about flush and your gaps over here on the side. You pull it, you attach your clamps, and then you can start drilling. And I do like, a couple holes at a time, drill, move on. But I work from the center and I go this way out. Actually, I started from the shoulder hub, went over here, came over here, and then did this side on here. Because this has a little bit of play into it. When you get to this screw here, and you're really trying to fit this over here, realistically, I'm really worried about keeping my shoulder hub gaps, making sure this is aligned, because this has a piece that pops into it, this has a vent. I want to make sure those fit. When I attach the skin to the door, here is the wooden side of it. This was off of one of the videos where I got the plans for. I used earth magnets in the side to hold it in place, and these earth magnets are really strong, so I got to figure out a way to open and close this once I get it set up. So if I was to put this here and have it close, it's important again to have this centered, because you're going to have a some sort of vent here, and then these are your coin return slots. So the coin returns will have to pop in here, and that's why this is hollowed out a little bit so it'll fit inside there. And then you'll have to be able to remove this piece. Now, by starting with this side and moving here, it allowed me to have a gap here, a very hairline gap up here, and a gap over here. But what happens on the wooden frame itself, one side, which is this side, becomes flush, and this side has about a 1/4 inch overlap on it, which isn't a problem. It's not a problem because that overlap is going to be against this frame. And so as you pop it inside, it fits right in there, and then you have your gaps. And that's the interior or the inner door skins on the wooden Senna frame of how I attach them. Again, it took me probably about 4 to 4.5 hours to attach the front skin, because of the importance of getting it centered and flush on the bottom. Now, once I had it flush on the bottom and it was aligned for all the panels in the side, if I was worried about the top, rubbing anywhere on the skins, all I would have to do would adjust the bullet up, put the screws up a little bit, tighten it back down, and then that adjusts the actual thing. And that gives me a bigger gap, so I won't have to worry about, and I actually knocked it out of line. It was perfectly aligned. But you have the ability to adjust these bullets so that you don't have to worry about the skin. It will line up and it will create a perfect gap all the way around just by doing your small adjustments on your bullets. And that's basically overall how I attach my R2D2 skins permanently on my wooden Senna frame system. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative and it gave you some ideas on how to attach your aluminum skins to your wooden Senna frame. Thank you.